Hello everyone and welcome right back to our explainer. Today, we are diving into a really special story together. Okay, I want you to close your eyes for just a second and imagine a beautifully lush green forest. The sun is shining, the leaves are rustling in the wind, and all the little forest animals are out and about. This is the magical setting where our adventure takes place. It's a story about a very important race, but honestly, it's really a tale of two very different friends. Are you ready to see what happens? Let's get right into it.
But first, come a little closer. I have a question for you. Have you ever met someone who thought they were just the absolute best at everything? You know exactly the type I'm talking about, right? Someone who likes to boast and brag and tell everyone else in the room how amazing they are? Well, in our little forest, there was someone exactly like that.
It is time to meet Chitti and Maitri, two very, very different friends.
First up, we have Chitti the rabbit. And wow, Chitti is swift. She is so incredibly fast that all the other animals literally stop in their tracks just to stare at her in complete amazement. She zips, she zooms, but, well, there's a catch. She is also very, very proud, and she constantly laughs at the other animals. Now, on the flip side of things, we have Maitri the tortoise. Maitri is slow-moving, she's quiet, she's incredibly calm, and she simply smiles gently at absolutely everyone she meets. She just takes it one careful step at a time.
The thing is, because Chitti was so fast, all that speed made her far too proud. Every single day she would strut around and boast about being the fastest creature in the entire forest. And she would look right at poor quiet Maitri and actually say, "Look at you, slowpoke. Your life is pointless. You'll never get anywhere." Oh my goodness, can you even imagine saying something like that with your nose stuck way up in the air? Chitti was just completely full of silly pride.
So, how did Maitri handle all of this awful teasing? Well, one afternoon, while Chitti was mocking her right in front of all the other animals, Maitri didn't yell. Actually, she didn't even argue back. She just took a really slow, calm breath. And, in a super peaceful voice, she said, "Chitti, if you like, why don't we have a race? From here all the way to the great banyan tree at the edge of the forest." Maitri didn't let those mean words bother her one single bit.
And just like that, the challenge was set for the Great Forest Race. When Maitri challenged her, Chitti just burst out laughing. I mean, a race against a tortoise? Chitti bragged that she could win this with her eyes completely closed. And so, without a second thought, she instantly agreed. All the animals gathered around, the starting line was drawn in the dirt, and the race of the century was about to begin. Let's trace how this is going to go. At exactly 1 p.m., they are right there at the starting line. By 1:02 p.m., just 2 tiny minutes later, Chitti is already zooming way ahead. Then, at 1:15 p.m., we hit a spot called the Shady Tree Nap, and we'll get into what that means in a second. By 2 p.m., Maitri reaches that exact same spot. And finally, the big finish line at 3 p.m. all the way over at the Great Banyan Tree.
The starting signal went off, and whoosh, Chitti shot off like an absolute arrow. Within seconds, she was far, far ahead. She was running so incredibly fast that when she finally peeked back over her shoulder, she could barely even see Maitri in the distance.
But that brings us to a very silly nap. I need you to keep your voices down for this part, because our super fast rabbit is about to make a very unexpected mistake.
Chitti actually stopped running. She looked way, way back down the winding path and just started to giggle to herself. "She's still at the starting line," she laughed. "I have plenty of time for a little nap." She was so completely sure she was going to win that she found a nice, comfortable shady tree, settled down into the cool green grass, closed her eyes, and fell fast asleep.
Oh no, what do you guys think is going to happen here? Will Chitti wake up in time? Or is Maitri actually going to reach the banyan tree first? The absolute fastest runner in the entire forest is literally snoring away under a tree.
While Chitti slept, Maitri did not stop. She did not hurry. She did not look back. One step, then another. Slow, steady, unshakable. She just kept going. And as she moved through the forest, she passed right beside the peacefully sleeping Chitti without making a single solitary sound. Step by steady step.
And now, we are finally at the finish line.
Suddenly, the very edge of the forest was in sight. Maitri's steady, careful steps had taken her all the way down the long path. As she took her final step right past the great banyan tree, the forest absolutely erupted.
All the animals cheered and clapped with pure joy. "Maitri wins! Maitri wins!" They shouted at the absolute top of their lungs. The slow and steady tortoise actually won the great race.
But wait a minute. All of that loud cheering echoing through the trees? It reached the shady tree. The noise woke Chitti up with a giant start. She leapt up from the grass and sprinted as fast as her rabbit legs could possibly carry her to the finish line. But it was way too late. Maitri was already there, just smiling quietly. Chitti, the super-fast rabbit, hung her head in total shame.
So what is the really important lesson here?
First, we need to talk about Chitti and a really big word called overconfidence. Overconfidence basically means thinking you are so great at something that you just stop trying. Chitti was super fast, right? Absolutely. But her overconfidence led right to her failure. She was so convinced she'd win no matter what that she decided to take a nap instead of just finishing the race.
But Maitri, she had a true superpower, and it's called perseverance. Perseverance means keeping going, one steady step at a time, no matter what happens. Maitri knew she wasn't the fastest. She knew that. But she had consistency. She never gave up. And that amazing perseverance is exactly why she triumphed over someone who was incredibly fast, but just a little bit lazy.
Now, when Chitti hung her head in shame, Maitri didn't laugh at her the way Chitti used to do. Instead, Maitri walked right over and gently held out her hand. She looked at her and said, "Chitti, the race doesn't matter. You are wonderfully fast, but even the fastest runner loses when she stops trying. Keep going always, no matter what." Isn't that just beautiful? Maitri showed us that winning really isn't as important as trying your best and being a kind friend.
So, the most magical takeaways from our story today are pretty clear. Slow and steady really does win the race. Overconfidence will usually lead to failure because consistency and perseverance always come out on top. And you want to know the absolute best part of the whole shebang? From that very day on, Chitti never looked down on anyone ever again, and the two of them became the absolute best of friends.
So, I want to leave you with one final, very important question. The next time you have to do something really difficult, are you going to be like Chitti before she learned her lesson, or will you be like Maitri? Will you remember to practice your perseverance, take it one steady step at a time, and never ever give up? I certainly hope so. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this fantastic story explainer, and I will see you next time.
Like, share and subscribe for more videos.